Hello, everybody, and welcome y'all to day 2 of our series Need for Speed. We got a real title in the industry. She's lovely, and I can't wait for y'all to meet and introduce her to y'all. But first, just a couple of small announcements. We're doing this a little differently. We're not going to be going through a full slideshow. I'm just going to be brief because y'all didn't come to hear me talk. Y'all came for her. So allow me to go through and just say, hey, welcome again to the Mentor Me Collective. Time is something we don't ever get back, so thank you for finding the time and sharing with us. And I'm happy that we're giving you that time back in the form of this talk. Just want y'all to know that we have a referral zone. We have different companies like Microsoft, Zillow. We have Accenture and a couple of other companies. You can visit the link here, bit.ly/MMC-refers. And we'll make sure that we hook you up with all these jobs and all these opportunities. We're always growing. People are joining. So please, if you see something, check out that referral zone and just let us know, if that's something you want to apply to. Also, I just want to also let y'all know that we're in the middle of our first cohort, our first fellowship program for UX designers and researchers, and we're already planning for next year's. So I want to make sure that y'all get the early scoop. You can learn more about the program at mentormecollective.org/fellowship right there, and then you can sign up. You'll look at all the instructions on how to get involved in it. Part 2 comes out next summer. We really want to see y'all there. If y'all have anything that y'all really want to work on, we'll be releasing the schedule probably later on this year, but I just want that fresh in your minds right now. Right here, you can text MMC to 866-901-1914, and that's how you opt into our text reminders. That's how you get alerts to these events, these giveaways, whatever that we're doing. We don't spam. We're not trying to blow up your stuff. We're not even trying to take your data. This is strictly for when we have events and different things going on. Also, I want to introduce y'all to the Etsy shop. I talk about it all the time. Sade has done a phenomenal job. That girl is sensational. She's working. She's doing the damn thing. And so I really want her to continue to show her work. And you can visit our Etsy shop here at etsy.com/shop/MentorMeCollective. And so it's very easy to register, very easy to look at and just see. Like I said, we're trying to make everything just in front and for all y'all to see at all times. We normally do seasonal, but now everything is there. So a lot of dope stuff. I'm going to start wearing some of my stuff too in the coming year. For the Apex, you can register here at bit.ly/the Apex Summit. Tickets went live. We actually started releasing who our keynote speakers are. We started releasing other people who are going to be, partnering with us throughout this thing. And we want you there, whether you can be in person or in a virtual capacity. So please make sure that you register at bit.ly/the Apex Summit. I'm telling y'all, we're so happy to be doing this. We're so happy for the community. And the last thing that I'm going to say is if you're thinking about possibly joining the team, if you have a skill, if you're trying to grow skills, we are looking for volunteer inquiries. And you can go to bit.ly/MMC-team, select the volunteer inquiry with me. I'm happy to talk with you, see where you can fit in, see if it's a good fit. We love new people. I love talking to new people and getting to know everybody. And, that's what we're doing here. We're just trying to grow. So thank you all for just being here. But again, y'all didn't come to hear me talk about all this nonsense. Y'all came for the lady of the show. So I want to bring her up so she can introduce herself and show you what she's been doing, what she's been working on. And 2, how you can get involved if this is something that, tickles your fancy. Please, everybody, give her a nice shout out to Miss Sierra Ellis.
Hello, everyone. Like Dom said, our name is Sierra Ellis, and I am what is the best way to say this? I am the engine development test automation engineer. So I will get into these slides.
So, you know what? I don't want to take up a lot of her time. Oh, see, Dom has been called. We see you, Dom. So I'm going to take myself off stage. I'm going to let her have the floor, and I'll be back on because we have some questions. I know I'm going to have a lot of questions, but I want the audience to have questions too.
Feel free to, before we get started, feel free to ask me questions, put them in the comments. I do have some interactive questions. Please interact with me. I like to talk. Dom.
Or you already ready. Stay ready.
Be ready, okay? So please interact with me. Please don't leave me hanging in these comments because I want to make sure that you get the information that you want to hear. So help me help you get what you need.
I love it. Look at her already being so helpful. So now I'm off stage and it's all yours.
All right. So like I said, this is Development Engineering 101. First, we're going to start is who does she think she is, right? Who am I to be able to talk to you today about development engineering, right? So my name, once again, is Sierra Ellis. I was born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee. I currently live in Michigan, though, so that's a big jump. So if you need advice on long distance moving, what is it like doing that transition, you can ask me questions about that too. I actually went to school in Knoxville, Tennessee, got my bachelor's in mechanical engineering at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. While I was in college, I was very involved on campus. So I was in NSBE, so National Society of Black Engineers. I was on the E-board, so not just a part of NSBE, but I was on the executive board basically the entire time I was in college. I was also a college engineer ambassador. I was a Tennessee Lewis Stokes my mentor, and I was also a tutor for multicultural student life. I'll get into a little bit later why I wanted to bring up some of the things I was involved in, because I want you to start thinking about the stuff that you're involved in now that's going to help you when you're trying to get a job. But after college, I moved to Michigan, and I've been working for General Motors for about 4 years full time. But before my full-time employment, I actually did 3 internships with the company in undergrad. I also did a 2-year rotational program when I first started. So I got to do 6 different roles over a period of 2 years, which was really, really helpful for me to get experience in different jobs, figure out what I want to do, and also be able to get experiences of making myself a better engineer, putting myself into uncomfortable situations to kind of grow myself as an engineer. I am now also on the NSBE recruitment team. I was actually at the last NSBE convention. It was my first one as a recruiter. And I'm also on my organization's team building committee. So some of the pictures I have here are the one on the right is actually from this past convention when I was doing my recruitment stuff. I got to put the Memphis Bridge right there, UT Knox. This picture down here is actually me from my first internship. So it's been some time between that picture and now. I know. And then this right here is my little sister. So I always use her for my fun fact because she's younger than me, but as you can tell, she's like almost a foot taller than I am. I'm like 5 even. She's like 5'10". So it's always been a fun fact of mine. So development engineering, let's get into the meat of it, what you really want to hear. What's that? So I know everybody can probably guess what a development engineer does. They help develop vehicles. But I want to ask you the question of, what do you think needs to be developed? So in the comments or come off mute or however you want to do it, give me some guesses on what you think has to be developed in a car for it to run. And I'll take a couple minutes for that. If anybody has any idea, whatever you think. Okay, the engine. It's a good one. What else do you think needs to be developed in the vehicle? Let's see. All right. So we got a couple of answers, but I'll keep it moving. So really, everything in an engine needs to be developed. Everything in a vehicle, yes. The computer, that's a good one too. Everything in the vehicle has to be developed, whether it's the engine, the vehicle, transmission, infotainment, and even within these sections, there are subsections. So when you're thinking of engines, what needs to be developed? Is it gas engine? Is it a diesel engine? Is it electric engine? All those things have to be developed, and even those have subparts. In the vehicle, you got interior and outer body, got the transmission, infotainment. You have all those different apps. People have to develop those apps, navigation system, how to integrate your Google Play or your Apple Play into your car. All that stuff has to be developed, and all those are development engineer jobs. So when I talk about development and development engineers, I'm going to talk from my standpoint mostly, but a lot of what I do on the kind of high level is what all engineers do. So if you have some specific questions, I probably can answer some of them and not all of them, but I'll definitely give you my point of view of development engineering from my standpoint. Because I've had roles in electrification, I've done development as the entire engine, but I also am now doing test automation on a particular part of a particular engine. So I've done a lot of things in just development in the development space as well. Keep it rolling. So, just to show you how much development engineers can do, I did a quick little search on our GM career site last week, and I put in the keywords development just in Michigan. So that's where I am currently in engineering, and 146 active job matches came up. So if you think it's just a couple different things that you can do, totally wrong. There's so much you can get into to be a development engineer. And if you're interested in it and now see all this list of things, how do you know which one to pick? How do you know which one is going to be the best for you? Like I mentioned earlier, rotational programs. I think rotational programs are so good for new engineers, whether you have some experience or not. If you think you know exactly what you want to do or not, I would suggest doing a rotational program because it gives you more opportunities than you ever can imagine. Like I said before, I am a mechanical engineer, but one of my best rotations was in the electric drive lab, which is electrification. So I worked on electric engines for 8 months. And I remember my first day on the job, my manager at the time, he was like, "Oh, how much experience do you have with electric engines, with electrification, electrical engineering?" And I told him I took 1 semester of circuits. That was Circuits 101. And that was like sophomore year of college. So that was a baseline of my engine knowledge or my electrification knowledge. But that ended up being the most rewarding rotation that I had. It was a small project that got turned into a big project to the point where I was making decisions on what to do next for this electrification process and the engine that we were running. And the components that we were working with were the component I was working with. So don't underestimate your powers in different situations, because you can not only grow yourself as a person, but really as an engineer and figuring out what you like and what you don't like, or what you're even capable of. All right. So I guess the big question is, what does a day look like as a test automation engineer? And the best way to summarize it is expect the unexpected. Each day is going to be extremely different. You'll think you have a plan for the day, and then it'll be totally different than what you think it's going to be, even depending on what you're working on. So I go through multiple engines because I work on a particular part of the engine that multiple engines have. I work with something called a gas particulate filter, and it's really for our vehicles that are overseas that have a lot more emissions criteria than we do in the US. And so multiple vehicles get this type of equipment, and that's my job to help get data for the calibrators to better fine tune the engine. So everything in the vehicle has to be calibrated. We want to make sure that we have the right numbers in there. So when you push the gas, you have the right amount of spark, fuel, all that, so you can go as fast as you need to go or go as slow as you need to go. You got to make sure that everything integrates together because there's so many moving parts that are coming together. So all that has to be calibrated. So a big part of my job is cross-functional teamwork with the calibrator to see what they need, because they're the customer for my data. The system cal engineer who's over the engine that I'm running, they do a lot of the setup for me. They put the request in for setup. They're the ones that request the test. They have a test plan that I have to adhere to. And then I also have to collaborate with the technicians that run my engine. So it's a whole bunch of moving parts of people just to do the test that I have to do. On top of that, I have to make the test. So it's a little bit of software engineering to me, because you're kind of doing some coding, we do some scripting, because we're trying to make the test run efficiently as possible. And depending on the test you have and the engine that you have, you'll have changes. You'll run this test 5 different times on 5 different engines, and none of the setups will be a little bit different for each one, because each engine has its own quirks. It has its own, special needs, and you have to figure those out. They might not always be apparent when you're first doing it. I also do kind of some data analysis. I have to review that once we do the test and I'm looking at the data. All right, what is this? What does good data look like? I can't just give the calibrator any type of thing, because then I'm gonna have to rerun it, which is gonna take a lot more time than if I just looked at it myself and I can spot some of the changes that need to be made. And on top of that, I use that for troubleshooting. So like I said, it's always going to be something different. Sometimes it'll work perfectly, and sometimes you may have made a wrong adjustment, or the test needs to be updated for some reason because this engine has a particular thing that it needs that you didn't need before. So I have to do all that. I have to do troubleshooting as well. So as an engineer, period, but especially in my job, expect the unexpected. Like today, even went into work, thought I had a plan, whole plan changed in a matter of like a minute. So you have to wing it sometimes and figure, all right, cool, what can I do? What can wait till tomorrow? How do I communicate this with my people that, hey, we're having delays and I'm doing this to kind of make us not be as delayed as possible. So that's kind of the day of a test automation engineer in a nutshell. So with that, what skills do you need to do this job, right? I've given you basically all the things that I do, but how does that translate into skills that will make you successful as a development engineer or just an engineer, period? So some of the skills that will help you succeed are communication skills. So writing emails, sometimes writing reports, speaking. You can have so much knowledge in your head and be so knowledgeable about a certain subject, but if you cannot tell the people that need that information, null and void. Like there's no point because there's no way for them to grasp that information that they need. Problem solving, so troubleshooting. How do you tackle issues? If you have a problem, are you just going to sit there? No, you got to kind of figure out a plan on how you're going to find out the answer so that you continue on with your testing and continue on whatever topic or project that you have. Being a team player, like I said, I do a lot of cross-functional communication with people. So you have to learn how to be a team player. You have to learn your coworkers or the people that you're working with so that you can speak in their language, right? Maybe they're the type of person that only communicates in email, right? If you try to call them, they won't answer. Maybe they're the type of person that if you email them, they won't answer. You have to call them. So you really have to learn the people that you're around to be able to be effective in communicating and being a good team player. You have to have the ability to fail. Do not be afraid to fail in engineering. That is when you have some of the biggest successes is when you fail. So that 8-month rotation I told you about earlier, the reason why it became such a big project is because initially when I got the project, they said it's going to be something easy. We know you don't have a lot of experience. You're just kind of validating. We set the test up. We went home for the weekend. They were like, oh yeah, we won't see any issues until like months in advance or months down the line. Came back the weekend. Everything is red. Everything is broken. Everything's beeping. And I'm just like, what happened? So it ended up being, I guess, a successful failure because that showed us that what we were validating wasn't true. And so now we had to dig into more, and I got that project. So I had to learn, electrification skills. I had to learn more about electrical engineering. I had to start going to meetings with suppliers and communicating with suppliers. So something that started off as a failure ended up being a really big success for me because I learned so much. I got my foot out there. Oh yeah, it gets real deep. You have to get my foot out there and meet a lot of people and network with a lot of people that I never would have had the opportunity to meet had it been an easy project. Had it been easy as it said it would, I would not have thought twice about wanting to join that group. And that's still a group that I'm very close to now. And that manager, I see him all the time. He is always nudging me like, hey, Sierra, if you ever want to come to this group, I'll help you out. I'll get you over here. And I haven't been over there for like 3 years now. So that kind of helps you build that confidence to network and get those contacts. Let's see. The last skill that I have on this section is confidence to ask for questions. Once again, you're going to fail. You're going to not know things. And it's okay. Nobody is telling you that you have to do all this by yourself because that's impossible. One of our behaviors at General Motors is called One Team. And it's because we are one team. We help each other. We're all here for a common goal. So we all should put our heads together to get these goals accomplished, right? So do not be afraid to ask for help. A lot of people you'll learn so much more by asking for help. So sometimes you think it's something simple and the person that you're asking, they'll teach you even more because they see your willingness to learn. So do not be afraid to ask for help. It's honestly my favorite thing to do. I'm asking for help all day, every day, but I've gained so much knowledge from admitting that I don't know everything. So I have this next section here, right? And I covered up the title for a reason because I want you to guess what these skills are. So having a deep engine knowledge, proficient in every coding software known to man, you have to be a master in English, you got to have a do it all by myself attitude. What type of skills are these? Are these successful skills? Do you think you need them? Are these good to have? Are they required skills? So somebody said required skills to start in this field. Okay. Anybody else have a guess on what type of skills these are in the second part? Don't be scared there. I'm like what we just say. Don't be the ability to ask for help or the ability to fail. Just get your guesses out there because you may be right. All right. Good to have, unnecessary, not needed to be successful. Okay. These are some good ones. Let's see. So for the people that said not needed or unnecessary, you're right. These are skills that I didn't include above because they're not needed. You don't need these skills. You don't have to have a deep engine knowledge. You don't have to be proficient in every coding software known to man. You don't have to be a master. You don't have to now I'm getting tongue-tied. You don't have to have a master's degree in English to be able to do this role or many engineering roles at General Motors. It is nice to have some engine knowledge. It's nice to have some coding knowledge, but it is almost impossible for you to know or be advanced in all of these things when you get there. I'll be very honest. When I first got into the company, when I did my first internship, they asked me, they were like, oh, how much engine experience do you have? And I had none. The only experience that I had with the engine was the car that I was driving back and forth to school. And they said, I was like, I kept reiterating. I was like, hey, I don't have any engine knowledge. I don't know engines. I don't know cars. And they're like, oh, that's fine. We'll teach you. And once I got into the company, I saw just how much they're willing to teach me. They're willing to teach me any of the technical things, show me any of the software that's needed, any of the other little things that I may have needed to be successful in a job. They showed that to me. They gave me mentors to help me get that stuff because they saw what they saw were other skills in me, success skills or soft skills that they knew would make me successful in this job, because they'll teach you the technical things because there's just no way for you to know how to use all these things. Because a lot of these programs you probably haven't even heard of. So they can't expect you to be an expert in them if you haven't even heard of them. So do not be afraid to jump into this field or jump into a certain job because you don't think you qualify. Now, there may be some jobs that have those requirements. They're like, we want rather you be proficient in this coding language, or may want you to have this experience. But talk to them. Say, hey, I haven't done this, but I've done something similar. Could that translate? Don't let anybody tell you no. My parents used to tell me that all the time as a child, and I was like, at first I didn't understand it because it's kind of like, yeah. But as I got older, it makes sense. Don't tell yourself no. Let them tell you no. Don't doubt yourself just because it may not be exact. You may not fit exactly what's on the screen because you don't really know what's on the background of what they're really looking for. All right. So if you don't have those skills, where can you get them, right? For some of the things with your job, when you start interviewing, you're going to need to showcase that you have these skills, these soft skills, leadership. I'll go back to a couple slides to kind of remember what I said. Communication, problem solving, teamwork, ability to fail, confidence to ask for help. You have to showcase these in your interview when you interview for these positions. So how do you get these skills, or how do you get more comfortable with speaking? Get involved. So remember at the beginning when I was like, I was really involved on campus. I did this, and this. This is why it's so important to get involved, because you get a lot of experience that you can use during your interviews. So join things like NSBE, SHIP, SWE, SAE, whatever your major is. Join those organizations. If there's a Quidditch team that you want to join it. If there's a stamping club that you want to join that as well. Let's see. Oh, Michael had something to say. I got to get better at this, letting them say no and not me saying no because I can't. Yes, stop telling yourself no. I had to do that. I still do it too. So I can't, say it and just be like, oh, because I've never done it. I still do it too sometimes. Then I'll get around people. I will tell myself no, but I will still push myself out there just to see what happens. And a lot of times I shock myself because people are like, man, Sierra, you're so good at this. And I'm like, I am not that good at this. But against my standards. I feel like I had to be an expert in something when I didn't even know what the expectations were to begin with. So sometimes we will put ourselves and give ourselves really high expectations that nobody else has but ourselves. And so we'll end up telling ourselves no or thinking that we're inadequate because we put such high unrealistic expectations when the high expectations that the employer has or that somebody else has are really down here. Really down here. Do you have to have a degree to get into technical positions at GM? I think it would depend on the position. So a lot of times they'll tell you when you look at the job posting if it's required. But I wouldn't exactly let that strictly deter you if you have the experience or something close to it. That may be a good time to reach out to that hiring manager and say, hey, I saw this job posting and I see the requirement is this, or the recruiter, whoever is doing that position, and say, hey, I don't have this degree, but I have all this experience, right? So a lot of times you'll look on the job and it'll say, have a mechanical engineering degree or some type of degree, or experience doing this, and this. So it may be something you do a little bit of both, or they may have a position that may not require a degree, and so you can get into that position and then through experience slide into the position that you wanted beforehand. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of maneuver yourself in the tech field at General Motors or just anywhere. You just got to be willing to maybe take a couple of side steps before you get to where you want to go. I hope that answered your question. Thank you for the hearts and the fires. I'll take them. Back to the slide. So if you don't have these skills, where can you get them? Like I said, get involved. Stamping team, Quidditch club, dance team, NESB, and to get those leadership experiences. Don't just get on the board and just on the team. Get into the leadership skills, get into leadership experiences, because once you put those on your resume, those are going to speak volume. You're going to tell the employer so much how valuable. Okay, I'll finish the slide and then I'll answer the question, because then I'm going to get sidetracked. Dom's going to get me on my time. I can't let Dom get me on my time, y'all. Get into the leadership positions, because then you'll be able to put them on your resume. And once they're on your resume, they'll basically, Chanel knows, he will, they will speak for themselves on a recruiter, right? If I put that I was VP of my NESI chapter when I was in college, I can put that on there and not say anything else, because it'll speak so much volume to the person that sees your resume. Because what does that tell somebody? That tells them, A, you have leadership skills, because VP is a leadership position, so you know how to be a leader. 2, you know how to do cross-functional work, because you have to work with everybody in your team. You have to work with other people on campus. 3, you most likely know how to do email writing, communication, because those are all the roles that are required as a VP. Most likely you're good at problem solving, because everybody that's been in leadership knows nothing goes as planned. When you plan an event, everything under the sun will automatically just stop working, or you got to switch vendors, you got to do something else. And that all that is told to a person through a piece of paper by just having that one position. So if you can start getting into those leadership experiences, and with wherever and whatever you're interested in, pick something that you're interested in, because it'll be easier for you to get into it and want to put the effort into it. And then make sure that you put those on your resume. Also, if you're in school, go to your office hour and talk to your professors. That's how you kind of get comfortable talking to people of higher authority. I know for me, when I first was an intern, I wasn't scared to talk to my managers, but I always kind of at first would see my managers as like a higher person, right? But then as I got into these roles and I started talking to these people, I'm like, oh, they're just kind of like my college professors. Like, everybody is just doing their job, whether it's a college professor, you're a student, manager, all of us have jobs, and we're just doing our jobs to the best of our abilities. So once you can get comfortable talking to people of higher authority, it's gonna be really helpful when you need something, communicating your needs and what you want to do with your career. It helps so much. I had an internship where I had it was not technical at all. I was doing like data analysis kind of, but I was really reading information and putting it in customer layman's term and taking them and putting them in technical terms. Well, I didn't always know the technical terms, so I would ask my manager, or I would ask a coworker. And so at the end, when I had my review, my manager kept praising me. I'm like, man, you know how to talk to people. When you have an issue, you don't just sit there, you ask for help. You know how to talk to me. And I'm just like, what is going on? These are things that I've always done in college because I had to do a lot of office hours or talking to people in NSB, that it just was easier when I got into these positions. But the fact that I got praised so much, I learned and realized that a lot of interns or engineers, period, don't have those skills. So if you can start getting comfortable talking to people, even if you're not a person that likes to talk to people, this is definitely something that you want to work on. Definitely do that. Also, learn your leadership style and realize that everybody's style is going to be different. Being a good leader, you have to know how to motivate your members in their own way. So I know for me, we did this test called True Colors when I was in college, because my advisor would always make our leadership people do that. And it was basically telling you what type of leader you are or how you kind of receive criticism or how you interact with groups. So for me, I got to learn about myself, but also people around me, right? We're all in engineering and we all do the same thing, but deep down, we're all different people. And we like to be explained things. We like to give criticisms a different way, or we take them a different way depending on how we're approached. So learning your leadership style and learning how everybody else is going to be different is going to put you a foot ahead tongue-tied again. Put you ahead of the game when you're dealing with other people. And when your manager sees that, or when other groups see that, they're going to start looking at you like, oh, okay, this person knows what they're doing. So back to the question. How valuable are self-projects for sewing experience? They are very good if you can hit the requirements of the employer, right? So if, let's say, you want to do a coding job and you see that they do Java, right? And if you said that you had a Java project where you did this, made an app and did this, and this, and this, okay, cool. So that tells them that that's a language they don't have to teach you. If you can explain how you learn the language by yourself, or how you reached out and got tools, or you did this, and this to learn it, they also know that you're self-sufficient. So when there are issues, they know that you'll be able to solve those problems without just sitting there, or without just letting it go by for days and be like, oh yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. So self projects can be really good experience, and they can be really useful in your interviews. If those projects hit the requirements or hit some of the things that you know that the employer is going to want to see. Which kind of brings me to, that's a good question, because it kind of brings me to my next slide, which is interviewing. So for General Motors, we use something called the STAR method, but I love the STAR method because it can be used in different interviews with different companies. It's really good to use basically whenever you're interviewing, because I think it'll leave a lasting impression on the interviewer. So STAR they ask six. Let me get some water first. They ask situation type questions rather than just technical based, but you can use your technical knowledge in your answer. Right? So STAR stands for situation, task, action, and results. And that's how you want to structure your answer. So they'll ask you something, and I even have some practice problems. So I really need y'all to come through with these practice problems, because this is going to help you with your interviews, right? So the first thing that you want to do before you have a STAR method interview, or just interview period, is start thinking about and jotting down scenarios that you can use in these questions, right? This is where your activity experience comes in handy. So being a part of an organization, your self projects, the projects you worked on in college, use those. You don't understand how many scenarios that you've been in that are really helpful when you have these interviews. You don't have to always use your super technical projects that you did in college or you did in your last internship. Sometimes it's just the organization that you're in. Say, hey, I was captain of my step team and we won this championship and we did this and this and this, because you can still pull in some of these. You can use those questions to answer. You can use those experience to answer these questions. And like I said in the last bullet point, remember, you've probably done more than you realize. So for example, we'll go through the examples. I'll do the first one for you, and then we'll practice with the other three. How about that? So the first question is, and these are questions that I've had in interviews. So I'm not just giving these random questions to give random questions. I've actually had these in interviews for some of my jobs and positions. So name a time when you were put in a situation where you didn't know what to do. I actually had this question when I was interviewing for my first internship. It was during my second semester freshman year. So I hadn't had a lot of experience because, it's just freshman year. But I did work in Wendy's in high school. So the actual answer that I gave was when I started at my job at Wendy's, I didn't know how to make the burgers. I had been to Wendy's, but I was not a pro at the ingredients on there. So the task was learning how to be sufficient at my job, learn how to make the burgers, the potatoes, and everything at Wendy's. So what did I do? What actions did I take? I followed the training documents once I got there, but really I was more hands-on. So I had a coworker mentor who showed me everything that I had to do, and I followed along with him. And so I tried every chance that I got to make an order. And at first I was a little bit a little bit slower because I was still looking at the guide they gave me. But over time, as I kept making them, I kept asking questions. I learned how to make the sandwiches, and as a result, I was like head burger maker by the time I left by the time I left Wendy's. And then I got moved to other positions throughout the store because they knew I was sufficient in the ones that I had. That's it. That's the STAR method. So the situation I had was I didn't know how to make burgers when I first got there. The task was I needed to learn. The actions I took were, asking questions, hands-on experience, reading the guides, using the table that they gave me to look at things. Those 4 for $4s at Wendy's be saving lives. I still go to Wendy's now. A lot of people say that after they leave a job, they don't eat there anymore. False. I ate Wendy's more after I started working than I did before. It was not the same for me. But in the result, after those actions, was that I got proficient at my job and ended up getting moved around to other areas because I was already so good at that. And I also started mentoring other new employees as they came in. STAR method. I like that method because it helps me frame my answers because I'm just thinking of STAR. But then you also are giving your interviewer enough information to see how I'm trying with the interview. Look, I'm here to help you, okay? And that's why I said y'all have to help me help you for this interview prep because I love this method. At first, when I first heard about it, I was kind of like, feels like a lot of work. But after I actually started doing it and started explaining to other people, it's one of the best, I think, in my opinion, a better method of preparing for interviews because you'll hit all the points, right? Because the interviewer asks a question and you think you're answering it, but then you end up going on this tangent and then you never answer the real question. It kind of helps you plot out what you want to say. And that's why I said it's really important to start thinking about the scenarios and situations that you've been in now so that when you get there, you don't have to think about it. Start thinking about the things that you've done when you had partnerships, when you've done class projects, internship experience, organization experience, all those, right? Start write them down now. Put your little notes in your phone, jot your little sticky note, whatever, so you can start writing these down so you won't have to think about them later. All right, so for number 2, I need a volunteer. I don't know how you're gonna do this. Dom, you're gonna tell me I'm gonna volunteer, but I want to volunteer to see if you can answer the second one. So name a time when you had to work with a difficult coworker. Once again, these are questions that I have had. So there's a certain way that you have to answer some of these questions. And this is a good example of one where you have to be very careful of how you word your answer. So who wants to demonstrate number 2? Don't be scared. I'll help you out.
Well, you know what? They're not going to step up. I'm going to step up,
Yes, Dom.
So let's do it. That's what we're doing.
All right, Dom. So I'm your interviewer, right?
Yeah.
And my question for you is name a time when you had to work with a difficult coworker. So think of the STAR method. How would you answer this question?
Okay, so thanks to you and Chanel, I've actually tried to incorporate this in my interview. So I'll go through it. So while I was at one of my companies, me and the supervisor did not necessarily see eye to eye about a certain project. And I took his criticism to heart. After some time, I realized that I could not take that to heart for us to complete the project. So I set up one-on-one time for us to meet. And what I discovered after our meeting was not only did we see eye to eye on a lot of issues, but we wanted the same results, just different ways of going about it. And he was able to not only teach me a little bit more than I knew, but we was able to come for a resolution that both of us were satisfied with.
Yes. And that's how you answer this question, people. Dom know he done this before.
Thanks to y'all. Y'all got me straight. Y'all got me out here working. And I work every time.
Do it, okay? I love how he shaped this question. Like, he didn't attack the person. He didn't say that this person talked too much. They came at me sideways. No, you can say that it was, the reason why it was difficult because we didn't meet eye to eye. We had different ways of going about the same thing. And because that happens. Like I said, you're going to be working with people that have differences from you, whether it's the way you think about something. There's 100 ways to skin a cat, all that. And a lot of times you'll want the same results, but you're doing it a different way. But since you don't have that eye to eye and you don't sit down and talk, you'll start butting heads. But that's a perfect way to say, hey, we had this issue. Instead of sulking, bad-mouthing, just forgetting the project, we came together as adults, talked it out, and ended up realizing that we wanted the same thing.
And you know what the crazy thing is? You're pretty much giving them not only for just interviews, but this is how it works in our interpersonal relationships, right? Because how many times you have a fight with a good friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a date friend, a babe friend, whatever y'all want to call it, and y'all didn't see eye to eye, and then when y'all settle down and y'all talk, y'all realize that it wasn't as y'all thought it was, and y'all was able to come to a resolution. So this STAR method isn't just for interviews. This plays a role in your everyday life as well.
Yes. Because you can start using the STAR method trying to think, what action should, especially because you can kind of switch it for your life. Like, okay, this is my issue and this is the result I want. What actions in between do I need to take between my situation and my results to get me where I want to be? You can use it for life. I hadn't even thought about it that way, but I'm going to start using it. I may have actually been using it for life and just didn't realize that it was the same method. But see, Dom knows. Okay, Dom, we're here.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a Dom, okay?
Trying to let them know everyone needs a Sierra, because honestly, just 10 seconds out of the day, this has been sensational. You taught me so much about this, and even as I explored your history, I wasn't prepared for this. So you're giving the people exactly what they came here for, which is a deep dive into what engineering is, and not only focusing on the technical skills, but what soft skills that they need to really thrive in this environment. Because we're learning, a lot of people have those hard skills. They can tell you about Python, C++, Java, whatever, but do they have the interpersonal skills to really build relationships and go to the next level? And I think you've done an excellent job of just helping people understand those skills.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's also something I strive to tell people, because that's what a lot of people get nervous about with engineering is, oh, I don't have the technical skills. I don't have technical skills. Look, Sierra doesn't have technical skills. 4 years down the line, Sierra is still learning technical skills. But I have done a lot, not try to toot my own horn, but done a lot outside on the success skills, on the soft skills that I can use, though they've been a lot more important in my jobs than the technical skills. Like, cool, being willing, look, you have to be willing to be to learn. You have to be able to be taught. There are some engineers that can't be taught. They, in my experience, if they'll look down on people, if they think they're in a higher role than them, not knowing that this person has been in this role for 30 years. Ma'am, just because she does not have the same, background does not mean you can't learn something from them. And those are the people that I learn from the most. Those are always my best friends. I'm like, hey, I need help with this. So being able to humble yourself as engineers or just people and being willing to learn from anybody is definitely important.
And also, we're all one bad situation from having nothing. And I think people need to understand that. We've seen how the pandemic, everyone was having good paying jobs and everything was flowing. That thing shifted everything. And now people were jobless. People had to adjust skills and everything. So everyone is one bad situation from, becoming, the people that they look down upon. So instead of looking down upon people, let's just learn from each other and help each other grow. That's the means that we try to, progress in the society.
Exactly. So I have 2 more examples, but we don't have to go through them since we already did the first 2. You kind of get the hang of it. If you want to use them for later on, definitely screenshot it. And you can take it and use it for your next, interview prep session or whatever. Because like I said, these are ones that I've had. But one thing I do want to point out is if you notice the types of questions that are being asked, they're not always going to be, oh, so what was your most successful project and why? Why, what was the good thing that you did and why? They want to know how you deal with crisis. They want to know when it gets bad, what are you going to do? So if you can tell them how you've had experiences when things went wrong or when things failed. I've had questions where they're like, name a time when you failed. It's like, dang, I don't want to tell you I don't want to tell you when I failed because nobody wants to hear when you failed. No, they want to hear when you failed because they want to see how you grew from it. What did you learn from it? If you fail here, are you going to just drop the ball and run, or are you going to keep fighting the fight until it's over? So definitely don't be afraid to write down the ones that weren't perfect, because those are the ones that you learn the most from. But make sure that you sculpt them in a way that it gives the interviewer what they need to hear to show your growth or show what you've learned and show what you accomplished. So there are going to be questions like name a successful project or something that you did really good in, but also know that you're going to have to explain and talk about some of the things that may have been difficult in your career.
So then, in your estimation, that when it comes to questions like these, could these seem more personal based than anything? Are we able to, instead of looking at hard results and hard numbers, are we able to just give our experiences with the project what we deemed a failure and how we came back from that failure?
Yes, so you definitely can do that. So like I said, one of the questions I have on here is like, name a time you knew you wouldn't meet a deadline. Literally had that question. Doesn't have anything to do with numbers, but more of the strategy side. This is kind of when they want you to start looking at it like as a leader and strategize. All right, if you know that you're not going to meet a deadline, what's my plan now? Do we not tell anybody? So I think I said for mine, like I would notify my team to say, hey, this is what's going on. These are why we're having deadline delays. I'm working with this group to do this. I'm working on a backup plan so we can do this. We're doing this in parallel. I'm doing that now actually at work. There are some things that we're not going to meet deadline on. So what are we doing so that we're not 10 years down the line in only a couple weeks? But there are also going to be some questions where you can bring in your technical hard numbers too. So even for the one where I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I could say that I didn't know, how to make burgers, but at the end of it, I was doing, making burgers at a rate of, 5 burgers a minute or something, which is better than when I first started. And I was making, 5 burgers in 30 minutes. So you can still use those numbers. And that's one reason, like I said, I love this method, because you can kind of tailor it how you want to. If you have hard numbers, use the hard numbers, because engineers love numbers. But you can, if you don't have those hard numbers and you can show your softer skills that you excel in, show those, right? Use this method to highlight your strong suits. If it's numbers, use your numbers. If it's your softer skills, use your softer skills. And you can still answer the question both ways.
Sensational.
Yes, sensational. All right, but honestly, that was all the slides I had. So thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope I was able to give you some valuable knowledge. And I can take some questions if we got time for questions.
So while y'all type in, because I'm on stage for so I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna get it popping, as we like to say from time to time. But so then I looked at your LinkedIn history just from when you were in General Motors and how you started as an intern. And so every position you worked at it for about 3 or 4 months before you got promoted to the next level. How was your growth in those positions? Like, what was the takeaway of like having to jump pretty much 2-3 times a year to something new?
The growth honestly, I loved it, because when I was, just starting out, I had no idea what I wanted to do. All I knew was that I was gonna be a mechanical engineer. I didn't know where I was gonna work, what my role was gonna be, because it's so much that you can do. So I love those internship experiences because I got to try out different things without being committed. I got to see, I was like, this was cool for about a month, but really as a full-time position, no, thank you. I had some internships like that. I was like, this is cool for the summer, but I can't do this full-time. But then there was other ones that are like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Let me see what else they do, or let me, see if I want to do this full-time. Even my rotational program, same exact thing. That was one reason why I was so excited about that. So I have to do the same thing. If you would have told me straight out of college that I was going to be doing electrification, I would have told you no. I'm like, that's crazy. I don't know anything about electric engines. But because I had that opportunity where it was like a no strings attached, I had no reason not to do it. I knew I was leaving after so many months. It was only supposed to be a 4-month rotation, and I ended up extending it to 8. That's how good it was. So I got to do that. And as I did all these experiences and went through all these different areas, I grew so much as a person and an engineer is because I got to see how things connect now. I got to see how my job here connects with somebody over here, will connect somebody over there, and they're going to use my data for this. And this is why things take longer, because a lot of times we get so stuck in our role that when we look at other people's roles, we're like, well, why am I not having my data? Or why don't I see this? Or why don't I get this? Because you don't know what happens over there. So putting yourself in those positions to see what actually goes on will help you be a more rounded engineer and more empathetic to your coworkers. So a lot of growth.
A lot. So let's talk about because I know at one point you was a software engineer for some time, and that's how you got. So let's talk about that. How did you know after like software engineering for about a year or so that development engineering was something that really intrigued you?
So I loved, ever since I said I was going to be a mechanical engineer, I always like hands-on things. I like being hands-on, like touching stuff. Even if I'm working on, I don't want to sit at my desk all day. I like interacting with people. And so by doing some of my other internships and doing my other rotations, I got to see those different things. I got to see development. I got to see the types of development, different parts of development I can do. Because you can be a calibrator, you could do test automation, you can do, so many things I can't think of them right now. But I was able to see that scope of things that I was like, oh, let's jump into this role and see what happens. But also in my rotational program, once I was done rotating, I had to interview and exit out. So out of the job listings that were posted that were available to us, development happened to be one of them. So I was like, I was already interested in it. I had some experience. Let's go for it. And so I interviewed for that one and a couple other ones, and that's the one I ended up picking.
Oh, see, I love that. Short, straight to the point. You liked it, you went for it. And that goes to what something she said earlier. She wasn't afraid and she just went for it. You can't talk yourself out of something that's already for you.
Because when I was reading the requirements for the job and reading the requirements for another job, the one that I picked, I was less qualified for the one that I picked than the other one that I didn't even try. And I was like, I don't even know how I got this job, because they saw things in me and some of the experience that I've had that overseeded what they needed, right? I may not have this and this, but they knew they could teach me that. But they can't teach me these skills here that I already had. So once again, don't tell yourself no. Let them tell you no.
So then what was one of your favorite projects since being a development engineer? What was one of the favorite projects that you can tell us about? Because, I know you got NDAs and stuff over there. But what was one of the favorite projects you worked on that you can tell us about?
Oh, man, my favorite one is when I can't go too much into it. It's honestly the one, okay, so I kind of touched on it earlier. So it was the one when I was in electrification, right? That would be my favorite project. So I can't get into details on it. And I think that was one of the reasons why it was one of my favorite, because it was top secret. I was like, man, I got clearance for this. I can do, it sounded very sweet because you'd be like, I want to go home and tell everybody everything. But they literally, every meeting we had, they're like reminding us, they're like, you can't talk about this. You can't even talk about this with other coworkers. And I was like, how did I do this? I was like, I hadn't been in a company that long and I'm getting this type of authority. One of the reasons why it was my favorite. But another reason why is because I grew so much in that role. I learned so much in that role about, electrification, about being an engineer, about being like in leadership type roles. Because I started I was like meeting with suppliers. I was like, when would I ever think that I was going to start meeting with suppliers and conducting meetings and not, giving direction on what to do next? I was doing all of this as a young engineer that I never thought I wouldn't do for years later. So I love that project and I love that team because it stretched me way beyond what I thought I was going to be stretched, or could be stretched for that matter.
A really good answer. So that, I guess, what's one way we can go about to letting people know not only that this type of career existed, because I didn't even know this existed, but how do we get more, of the diaspora of Black and Latinos into these types of spaces? The
best way to start learning about positions and learning about what's out there is joining organizations. NSBE, the National Society of Black Engineers, SHIP, which is the Professional Society for Hispanic Engineers, all those type of engineering ones, anything engineering based, start getting involved. Go to those conventions. A lot of things are virtual now. There's a whole Apex summit that Mentor Me Collective is putting on. Go to it because you get to network. And I think one of the best ways to kind of get your face out there or learn what's out there is by talking to people that's in it. Hey, start making friends with these people, and you'll never know what you'll be exposed to. When I talk to all my friends from school I met all of my friends through NSBE, actually. All of my close friends I met through NSBE. So when I hear about what they're doing now, I got friends that work at Frito-Lay that do like project management. She's like a manager. I got another friend that's doing automotive, and then my sister's like I can't explain what she does sometimes. I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Like, it's crazy. So get involved with people and just see what they're doing, see what's out there. Going on the website, go to the careers website. All the companies have career. Look at them, see what the job descriptions are like. Type in something that you're interested in, development, and see what roles pop up. Because then you may see something like, hey, I never heard of this job before. How do I get into it? And if it's something that you're interested in but not quite ready for, look at the requirements and start putting yourself in positions to meet those requirements. But yeah, so networking, research, NSBE.
Very powerful. So we got asked the question, what's your best advice for post-grads deep into their job hunt journey?
The best advice is take a deep breath. That's just sometimes you're gonna have to take a deep breath and realizing just how dope you are as a person. I think imposter syndrome, lack of confidence, whatever you want to call it, is very real, especially for minorities, because we get into these spaces and, once I said before, put these high expectations on ourselves and think that, if something doesn't work out, it's my fault. It's something, if I don't get this position, it's my fault. There's something I'm lacking, this, that, and the third. And that's not always the case. I know it's hard. Rejection is never easy. But it's really redirection. That job, you didn't get that position because that position may not be right for you. That position is not going to use your skill set like it should, right? It may not be you. It could definitely be the company, right? They notice that, man, this person, we can't really grow them because they've already grown enough. They won't grow at my company, or their skills are so unique that they're not going to translate here. But there's another position, another job that does. So don't always take rejection as in something's wrong with you. It's more of a redirection to what is really out there for you. So sometimes you're going to get that rejection, or you're going to get those moments where you're just like, what am I doing? Take a seat, take a pause, breathe in, breathe out. Look at your resume and remember when you were struggling to get this stuff on your resume, and be like, this person's grown so much during that time that I can accomplish anything, and then keep pushing.
And let's be real, when it comes to life, you got more no's in life than you got yeses. Whether that was relationships, your colleges, you probably got a couple no's before you got to your first college, before you got to that first interview, before you got to that first job. You dealt with no. So understand that doesn't define you. It's just a part of the journey. It's a part that we don't like to discuss because it's very hurtful to the ego and very hurtful. But it's a part of it, and we have to continue to grow from it and just say what's for me is for me and continue to do our job.
Look, I was a Girl Scout when I was younger, and I remember standing in front of Walmart, standing in front of Kroger trying to sell these cookies. Everyone about they love these cookies, but when you standing out there and you got 30 folks telling you no before you get that one person to buy a box of cookies, your heart hurt a little bit. But it just shows you that, yeah, sometimes it's not right for you at that moment, but if you stick it out, or when the time comes, you can do it. And sometimes you have to take a look at your journey and realistically think of what you want to do. Now, everybody wants to be a manager. Cool, fine and dandy. But realistically, if you have no experience or people leader skills, it's going to be hard to be a manager. So maybe think about, taking a little longer journey. Sidestep. If you know you're going to be a manager of software, get into those software roles. Get into some experiences where you're dealing with software, so that when you interview to be a manager, I can be a manager because I've done these jobs before and I know how to manage the people that are in it.
Exactly. So it just comes back to understand why you were so no. Just understand that the no means no, and it doesn't affect your journey. It's just you got to do something else to get to the next step. We all have to do the pivot before before. Even at the Mental Me Collective, we've had to pivot a couple of times because stuff didn't work out, but we never said the no was permanent. We just redirected and everything ended up being better, and that's how we get people like Sierra to come here and do these sessions with us, right? So just to give y'all words of encouragement, even in my journey, I got recently denied for a job that I was applying to that I made the final round. And guess what? That no led me to another opportunity that I'm in right now. That's just how it goes. So keep going, keep applying. I know it's very hurtful, but at the end of the day, you can move left or you can move right, but you got to move. So let's pick the move forward.
Yeah, I got rejected from a position too. I was thinking about like kind of switching gears, doing something else, and I thought I had enough on there. I reached out to the person after my interview, and I was like, well, because I didn't even get the first round. I didn't look. I'm gonna be honest. They was like, So I emailed the manager. I was like, hey, I just want to see where I can, do better next time. And she was like, there were just so many great candidates that the person they picked literally hit every bucket and then some. And I was like, okay, I just don't have that right now. I still need experience. I still need to do more things to get these experiences. I had to be realistic, but at least I put myself out there to be like, hey, I tried it, but now I see where I can work on it.
Of course. Last comment for the night, because I want to be respectful of people's time. It's 7:01. Dominique says here with the plugs for the Apex shout out. We love Dominique, man. That's my dog right there. She's sensational. She actually did a lot of work on the website. That's a dope engineer. So if y'all know any engineering roles, please, Dominique McCall, please make sure that y'all put her name in her room, because that girl, she's fire right there. Like,
yes. And of course, Apex shout out always, because it's a great opportunity. You better go. You better sign up. Didn't they say it's free?
It's free. It's free for everybody. We not telling y'all nothing. Y'all gotta pay for all these other conferences. We trying to get this to you for free. So show up, make some connections, build some community. That's always the goal. But so we're at our time. But you know what, Sierra? This was just a great talk. This was such an amazing talk. You gave so much information. This is recorded, so I want to make sure we send you the recording so you can show your superiors, look at what I'm doing in my community. And also just for everybody here who took the time to really see this. This was amazing. I hope that y'all connect with Sierra. Y'all proud, y'all talk to her. She loves talking to people, as she says. Oh, look, Michael Upshur said he's going. But she loves talking to people, connecting with people. Honestly, she's one of the nicest people I've ever met. When we first met, super dope. She did a session with us back in Black History Month and just gave it to you, straight up and very transparent. So please reach out to her. Please connect with her. Please just continue to support her, because that woman is lovely.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the compliments. Thanks again for having me. I'm so excited I got to do this. Once again, find me on LinkedIn. I like to talk. I'm very, if you need advice or something like that, feel free to reach out. Have any more questions, let me know.
Yes, let us know. So, we're at time. So thank everybody for showing up. This was sensational. We can't wait to see you tomorrow. And I can't wait just to see how much more that we see you grow into, because you're doing it. Just want you to know, I looked at the LinkedIn, you doing it. So I'm going to give you your flowers right here. You doing it, Dan.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm trying to show up for the community.
You ain't trying, you do it. That's what I love to see. But good night, everybody. Thank y'all so much for showing up, and I can't wait to see us for the next session tomorrow.